Right now on Morning News Now, heartfelt tributes in Washington this morning for the late Lindsey Graham, a South Carolina powerhouse in the Senate, passing away over the weekend at age 71. More on his legacy within the halls of Congress as his Republican Party scrambles to scout out a fitting replacement before November. Also this morning, unrelenting, a soggy start to the work week for millions across the Deep South after yet another weekend of wild weather soaked major cities like New Orleans over the weekend. We've got your full forecast as you head out the door. That's coming up. Plus, a legal battle of the tech behemoths. Did OpenAI actually steal industry secrets from Apple? We'll dig into a brand new lawsuit just filed by the iPhone maker that could shake up the multi-billion-dollar race for AI dominance. And later in the hour, our own Tom Yamas goes one-on-one with the one and only Lin-Manuel Miranda, a great American who's brought our history to life on Broadway in a way nobody had ever seen before. Well, good morning. It's great to have you with us. Thanks for kicking off your week with us. I'm Savannah Sellers. Joe's off today. We are going to begin our show with the death of South Carolina's powerful Republican Senator Lindsey Graham. He passed away late Saturday in Washington following a trip to Ukraine. Now, Graham's office said on Sunday the preliminary cause of death was aortic rupture. The senator had started out as one of then candidate Trump's harshest critics, but ultimately became one of his strongest allies. Graham's been a controversial and divisive foreign policy hawk throughout his career. He was a staunch supporter of Israel, of America's war on Iran, and one of the strongest advocates for sending military aid to Ukraine in its war against Russia. Well, this morning, lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are remembering his legacy. NBC News Washington correspondent Alice Barr has more for us on this. Hey, Alice, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah. Presidents, past and present, foreign leaders, and fellow colleagues are all remembering Senator Lindsey Graham as one of the most influential lawmakers Capitol Hill has ever seen as they begin looking to who could fill his seat. This morning, colleagues on both sides of the aisle are honoring the life and legacy of South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, who built his influence on bipartisan relationships and on 30 years of experience in the halls of Congress.
He started public service because he wanted to make sure that no one felt invisible.
No better friend, no tougher adversary.
On Saturday night, emergency responders rushed to the 71-year-old's Capitol Hill home.
EMS 6 responded to engine 7 medic 7 with cardiac arrest.
His office saying the preliminary medical examiner's report cited a tear in the main artery from the heart due to cardiovascular disease. President Trump said he spoke to the senator the night before he died. Initially a vocal Trump skeptic, Graham became one of the president's fiercest allies and a forceful advocate for his agenda.
The friendship grew. It just grew. And he was an amazing advocate.
Senator Graham had just returned from a trip to Kyiv, where he met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and announced a breakthrough in White House backing for a bipartisan Russia sanctions bill.
I've never been more optimistic than I am today that we have the formula to end this war.
Also a staunch supporter of Israel, Graham was a longtime foreign policy hawk, advocating an aggressive approach to adversaries. He served in the Air Force and as a military lawyer. His death now leaving a hole in the Senate and prompting questions about who will replace him. He was running for a 5th term in South Carolina, the state now preparing instead for a snap primary, with the governor to name a temporary replacement through the end of the year. And Senate Republicans are already missing the vote of Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell, who was hospitalized a month ago. After weeks of speculation, his office released a photo and statement with McConnell saying he did not suffer a heart attack or stroke, but that he fell, was briefly unconscious, then developed pneumonia and is now regaining strength in a rehab facility. Savannah, back to you.
All right, Alice, thank you for kicking us off this hour. Well, we heard a little bit there from President Trump and Alice's piece, but Meet the Press moderator Kristen Welker did speak exclusively with the president about Senator Graham's death and has more. Kristen, good morning.
Hi, Savannah. This week on Meet the Press, I spoke with President Donald Trump in a phone interview about the legacy of one of his closest allies, the late Senator Lindsey Graham. Can you tell us, Mr. President, how you received this news and your immediate gut reaction when you heard it?
He called and he said, we're all set for the Save America Act. He was pushing the Save America Act like crazy. He got back, said he just landed from Ukraine. I said, that's a long trip to make it. He said, he sounded a little tired, but perfect, but a little bit tired. Had a right to be. And he was a worker. He was really a worker. But he sounded great, actually. But he actually said he was tired. But he wanted to pass the Save America Act. And I said, well, we're going to get it done, Lindsey. We're going to get it done. I'll see you like soon. And then that was it. And that was, very around the time. It couldn't have been much longer. It could have been his last call. I don't know exactly. But I got a message about 1 o'clock in the morning from one of the people at his office that he had passed away. I said, I just can't believe it. He was like a member of the family to me. It's very tough, actually.
Our thanks to Kristen Walker for that. Well, Graham's passing comes at a critical political moment. He was facing a race to be reelected in a closely divided Senate. So let's continue this conversation with NBC News political reporter Megan Brand. Megan, good morning. So Graham looked to be this heavy favorite there for reelection this fall in South Carolina. Not really a surprise. What happens to his seat now? What comes next?
Yeah, that's right. South Carolina is a state that leans Republican. In terms of what happens next, Governor Henry McMaster, he is a Republican as well. He is going to appoint someone to fill out the remainder of Senator Graham's term through January 3rd of next year. Now, as you mentioned, Senator Graham was up for re-election this fall, and so now Republicans are going to have to find a replacement on the ballot for Senator Graham. So now there's going to be a Republican primary on August 11th. Candidates who want to run can officially start filing on July 21st. That is next Tuesday. Now, it's still very early, so we don't know yet who the governor is going to appoint, and we don't know exactly what this field of candidates could potentially look like for that primary as well. Yesterday in that interview on Meet the Press, President Trump had said that he had an idea of who he thought that he might want the governor to appoint, someone he thought that who would be great for the governor to appoint, but he declined to say exactly who it was, saying that it was too close to the senator's death, Savannah.
Megan, tell us just some of the names, though, being floated as potential replacements.
Yeah, so a source familiar said that Representative Nancy Mace is strongly considering jumping into this race. She had also previously ran for governor earlier this year in that Republican primary, and she lost. You also have another potential name in Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evett. She also ran for governor in that primary and lost as well. A source close to Evett said that she has been receiving dozens of texts and phone calls encouraging her to jump into the race. Someone who has said that they are not going to run is Congressman Joe Wilson. He said that he intends to continue to run for his House reelection instead of jumping into the Senate race. Now, you also have another businessman, Mark Lynch. He's the person who had challenged Senator Graham in that primary race earlier this year and lost. Now, in a statement yesterday, when he was acknowledging and mourning the death of Senator Graham, he did not say in that statement on social media whether he planned to run, saying that it wasn't a day for politics. But later on, the New York Times reported that he told them that he intends to run for that seat, Savannah.
Megan, we're also following the health of another senior Republican, that's Senator Mitch McConnell. He was hospitalized mid-June, but his office didn't give a reason at the time. We just heard a bit about this from Alice, but we did get this statement from his office. Tell us what we're learning now.
Yeah, that's right. So in that statement, it was the first time that we are hearing directly from the senator since his hospitalization weeks ago. In that statement, he also included a picture of him with his wife, Elaine Chao. He included a little bit more information and included in the statement that you're right to expect your representatives to work hard for you, saying that part of his decision to not seek another term was the fact that he was being honest about the demands of Senate work. But he added, I still have unfinished business to complete on your behalf, and I have every intention of finishing the job you elected me to do. He also disclosed more information about what led to his hospitalization, saying that he was briefly unconscious during that incident. He also said that his doctor said that he has no broken bones, he doesn't have a concussion, he didn't have a heart attack or a stroke, he does not have tumors or hemorrhages. He also said that when he was in the hospital, he dealt with a mild case of pneumonia. He said that he has now been able to be moved to a rehab center and that his doctor doctors have advised him to hold off on returning to the Senate floor. But he said in that statement that he's continuing to work with his team to address the issues faced by his constituents.
All right, Megan Brand, thank you so much. Well, in the Middle East, the U.S. and Iran continue to trade strikes over control of the Strait of Hormuz. Overnight, U.S. allies in the region say they faced aerial threats from Iran after the country vowed retaliation for U.S. attacks on its territory. Now, the U.S. says it hit dozens of targets over the weekend in what it's saying is a response to these Iranian attacks on commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz. NBC News international correspondent Matt Bradley has the latest details. Matt, good morning.
Well, it's been another violent week with shots fired across the Middle East, the U.S. and Iran exchanging fire. This time, several U.S. allies in the region are also involved. Kuwait, Bahrain, Jordan, all reporting that they had received fire from Iran. Now, both sides are denying that they were the ones who instigated. All of this comes down to a dispute over the Strait of Hormuz, a dispute that was supposed to have been resolved weeks ago with the signing of that memorandum of understanding between the U.S. and Iran. Now it looks like both sides are continuing to fire. Iran fired at what they said were ships who were crossing the Strait of Hormuz without going by the specified routes that they had said were guaranteed as part of this memorandum of understanding. Now the U.S. had said that they have been continuing to fire a third straight volley of shots over the weekend. The latest came overnight, attacking what they said were radar installations in Iran. And the Jordanians and Bahrain and Kuwait had reported that their missile interceptors had also tried to intercept Iranian projectiles that were fired by Iran in retaliation. Now, the Iranians have come out, their foreign minister as recently as just in the past couple of hours, and stated that the fault for breaking the ceasefire is with the U.S. President Donald Trump spoke with Meet the Press yesterday on Sunday, describing how they had gone back to firing against the Iranians, how the Iranians had just about made a deal with the U.S. before they once again started shooting at ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Regardless, no matter who you believe, it looks as though the situation in the Strait of Hormuz and across the broader Middle East has returned almost entirely to the state it was before that memorandum of understanding brought in what could have been a lasting ceasefire.
All right, Matt, thank you very much. Well, for more on this, let's bring in Hagar Shamali. She's the host of Oh My World on YouTube and the former spokesperson for the U.S. mission to the UN, also the former NSC director for Syria and Lebanon. Hagar, good morning. So we are nearing the halfway mark of this 60-day window for the U.S. and Iran to make a deal under that memorandum of understanding. But this latest escalation, I mean, it really feels like a deal seems very far out of reach. What does this renewed fighting tell you about either side's goals right now and what's possible?
Thanks, Savannah. Well, the bottom line is that this renewed fighting just further highlights that the Iranian regime are a group of terrorists. And this is it's predictable. They're starting to try to blame the United States. And the fact is that they don't like that they saw that gas prices going down. They don't like that the Lebanon-Israel peace process is continuing. They want to squeeze as much as they can and up the pressure in advance of a final deal. But they've never been further from a final deal. And frankly, I just expect this limbo situation and volatility to go up and down. And I've said that from the beginning, really through the midterms. And that's because both sides have an interest in buying as much time as possible. The Iranian regime, if they can survive this until the next U.S. president, that will be winning to them. And for the president of the United States, for Trump, it's just having low gas prices through the midterms until then he feels a bit more freedom to pursue policy toward the Iranian regime without as much domestic pressure.
Hagar, the big leverage here that Iran has is the Strait of Hormuz and the power, the control that they have exercised over it, trying to essentially change operations in the Strait from even prior to this conflict. Do you think that the U.S. has to continue these attacks on Iran as essentially the only way to combat Iran's threats to shipping in the Strait and really, therefore, the global economy?
Yes, so I'm glad we're talking about the Strait of Hormuz specifically, because the Iranian regime is alleging that the memorandum of understanding gives the Iranian regime alone the sole authority to control maritime navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. That is absurd. It is international waters. They never had this power, as you just mentioned. The fact is that they are, in order to try and get this to move forward, the only language that the Iranian regime really truly understands is the threat of military force. That coupled with sanctions. Now, the waivers for oil sanctions continue. They claim that they're upset that the Treasury Department issued some sanctions last week, but that had nothing to do with oil sanctions. Oil sanctions have been lifted temporarily. There's been a waiver for them, not other sanctions. So the Iranian regime, again, I'm not surprised by it. I used to work on issues related to the Iranian regime for over a decade. It's a group of terrorists. They can't trust them in a bargain or any kind of deal, and they're always going to try to maneuver in a way to place pressure, but they're overplaying their hand here.
What is it that's going to bring these two back to the negotiating table in a meaningful way? How is that possible?
It has to be a mix, in my opinion. It has to be a mix of military threats and force that really matter to the Iranian regime, certainly activity in the Strait of Hormuz, additional targets, making their ability to strike other boats or navigation in the Hormuz incapacitated and neutralized. But I think also that the U.S. has to threaten as much as possible things like seizing Karg Island, the island in the north that allows Iran to produce and refine its oil. And given that the Iranian regime is not holding up its end of the bargain on the MOU, we have to snap back those oil sanctions immediately to prevent them from taking those profits for rebuilding, rearming themselves and their proxies. But without that loud message, the regime is not going to feel the pressure to come back to the table. And they've done it before, by the way. We can bring them back to the table.
Hagar Shamali, as always, we so appreciate your expertise and analysis this morning. Thank you. Well, back here at home, severe storms carved a trail of destruction in spots around the country. This morning, people in Philadelphia, they are still cleaning up after powerful wind gusts of up to 70 miles per hour swept through the city on Saturday. The winds were so strong, they ripped the roof off an apartment building, uprooted trees and downed power lines. And then meanwhile, in Louisiana, parts of New Orleans were soaked by flash floods that forced people to abandon their cars after 5 inches of rain fell. The problem was made worse when at least 3 of the city's storm water pumps quit working. And in southern Missouri, storms from that same system caused flash flooding that prompted the emergency evacuation of a summer camp. The National Guard airlifted the stranded campers on Black Hawk helicopters and flew them to safety. NBC News correspondent Valerie Castro has more for us.
Damaging storms leaving a trail of destruction. Oh my gosh! With more severe weather on the way. Philadelphia hard hit by at least 4 severe microbursts Saturday.
It's definitely not normal.
With straight-line wind gusts of up to 70 miles per hour, according to the National Weather Service. The storms ripping the roof off an apartment building.
I heard a giant boom, and I'm like, did we get hit by lightning? And then I looked out the front door and saw the roof was on top of my vehicle.
Another building partially collapsing, scattering bricks. Trees toppled onto roads, smashing cars. One tree landing on electrical wires, seen smoking in the aftermath.
It's like a thunder, a thump, just a roar, like a whoosh.
The mayor issuing a declaration of disaster emergency after thousands were left without power. In Tennessee, flash flooding sweeping through the eastern part of the state, triggering mudslides. And in Louisiana, parts of the New Orleans area left soaked with inundated cars. Missouri still cleaning up from deadly flash flooding that also prompted the evacuation of a summer camp. In Lesterville, several vehicles left abandoned in mud and some trapped by the rising water. Trailers seen toppled over along the riverbank. As more rain is expected to batter parts of the South, most of the country also bracing for extreme heat.
A heat dome is now setting up over most of the country, with many expected to see highs in the 90s and triple digits over the next several days. Back to you.
All right, Valerie, thank you so much. Well, as we begin another week, let's get a closer look at what is to come. With your morning news now weather, we have meteorologist Andrea Romero joining us this morning. Hey, Andrea, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah. And we're looking at more heat across the country, especially along the northern tier. We can see that we have over 90 million people at risk of this prolonged heat, with heat alerts in effect that will continue through Thursday. And that basically stretches all the way here over the northern plains from the Great Basins into into the Great Lakes and now even including the Northeast. And afternoon highs are expected to reach the triple digits in many locations. In fact, we're looking at the possibility of some record high temperatures today. For example, here in Rapid City with 105 is the record. We're going to be at 104. So we're really right there at the brink of establishing a new record there. In Lander as well, in Grand Junction, International Falls. So we're really close to those high numbers. And these warmer than average temperatures will continue today to the next couple of days. Temperatures that are 10 to 20 degrees above average for all this location. And that heat is going to be moving further east. And we're looking at 90-degree temperature starting tomorrow here in the Big Apple. In fact, we could have a new heat wave impacting this region with 3 consecutive days of temperatures in the 90s that once again with the high humidity will feel even warmer. Now, as far as severe storms, we are tracking some of that this morning as well, and that's mostly concentrated here over parts of North Carolina, even into Virginia. We also have some heavy storms down south near New Orleans. Now, we have some flood watches up. We even have a flash flood warning here in northwestern parts of North Carolina, and these heavy rain showers will continue. These storms will continue throughout the day. Today, we have this flash flood risk that extends from this area all the way into Texas and even parts of the Southwest. We have some monsoonal moisture that's moving into the area, so we're expecting more rain to develop in the next couple of days in this part of the country. So we're looking at these slow-moving storms are going to be impacting the southeast along a stationary front today into tomorrow with up to 2 inches per hour that can fall. So we are talking about rainfall accumulation amounts of over even 3 inches through Wednesday, especially here in parts of western Texas, where we have, like I said, the possibility of those heavy storms setting up, those monsoon storms setting up in those areas. Now, we have the storm threat today for the southeast. We have those record high temperatures that are happening in the northern plains, and we're expecting by midweek to have sunny and warm temperature here in the northeast. Of course, some record temperatures are possible, and that high heat will continue to impact. So you want to make sure you take those steps to keep yourself safe, making sure you take frequent breaks from the heat, limit those outdoor activities, and of course, drink lots of water. Back to you, Savannah.
Really good reminders as we're just about halfway through this summer. Andrea, thank you so much. We'll see you in a little bit. We've got more to come on this Monday edition of Morning News Now, including the food-borne parasite that's sickening people nationwide. Officials cannot seem to figure out where exactly it's all coming from. First, though, after the break, protests and pushback in Mississippi over the death of an 18-year-old, a mystery that's unfolding in one southern community. That's next. We are back with a growing controversy over the death of 18-year-old Nolan Wells from Mississippi. Officials say the black teenager died under what they are calling mysterious circumstances while on a 4th of July boat trip with his friends. Now, as his family questions conflicting accounts of what happened, they're joined by a chorus of supporters demanding transparency and answers. NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson has the latest.
Courage, and don't allow Nolan Wells' name to be forgotten.
In the streets of Mississippi, demands for transparency and truth.
We just want to know what happened to Nolan.
In the death of 18-year-old Nolan Wells, who disappeared after a 4th of July boat trip with friends.
Police report her 18-year-old son, Nolan Wells, missing last seen at 3 on Horn Island.
His body was recovered 2 days later. Investigators say he may have drowned. But his parents question why his phone was found with a friend and why he didn't leave the island with the group he arrived with.
You can give all the excuses you want, but you do not leave someone else's child.
Now the family's attorney and investigators are trying to piece together what happened, asking people who were on the island to share any videos like this one from that day.
There's basically a black hole between about 4:30 on the 4th of July in the afternoon until when Nolan was found.
Brian Trasher with the Cajun Navy helped search for Nolan.
Given all the people who were out there, does a drowning that no one witnessed surprise you or seem strange to you?
It does seem strange to me. It is possible that nobody saw him.
Nolan's family says he was the only black person in the group and have questioned whether race may have played a role. His family is awaiting the results of an independent autopsy in their search for answers.
We love him, and we know he's with God.
Priscilla Thompson, NBC News, Houston.
Well, in international news, we are following some developing news out of Bangkok. This morning, officials say more than 24 people are dead after a fast-moving fire broke out at a local pub, and we do want to warn you, the footage is disturbing. NBC News international correspondent Claudio Lavanga joins us to take us around the world in 60 seconds. Claudio, good morning.
Good morning, Son. Well, that's right. The Prime Minister of Thailand said now at least 27 people died after that fire tore through that pub in Bangkok. The city's government said the fire broke out in the beer hall shortly before midnight Sunday. Videos shared online show the fire raging, plumes of smoke coming out of the front door, and people fleeing. Investigators are now trying to establish what caused the fire and whether emergency exits were obstructed, making it difficult for people to evacuate. Let's go now to the Democratic Republic of Congo, where the U.S. Center for Disease and Control said on Friday a U.S. citizen working for a humanitarian organization tested positive for the Ebola virus. In a statement, the German health ministry says the patient was admitted to a university hospital in Frankfurt. The hospital also released its own statement, telling NBC News that the patient is stable and receiving treatment in a specialized isolation unit. So far, more than 1,800 cases have been confirmed, including 648 deaths, since the Ebola outbreak was detected in May.
Now, after a dramatic weekend of tense quarterfinal action, the World Cup semifinal matches are set with 4 teams just overflowing with talent. England and Argentina became the latest soccer powers to move one step closer to glory in the world's biggest sporting event. The quarterfinal stage delivered late-game drama and unforgettable moments. Now the stakes are even higher as the tournament's biggest remaining stars look to lead their countries past those semis and into the final. That's coming up later this week. There is a lot to talk about at this stage of the tournament. Let's bring in Dax McCarty. He's an MLS analyst and former U.S. men's national team player. Thank you so much, Dax, for joining us this morning. Good morning. Okay, let's start with a look back just at this weekend's game. Spain, Argentina, England punching their ticket into the semifinals in some of these dramatic matches. What for you was the biggest game-changing moment or performance that stood out to you?
Yeah, no question. We had 3 great games this past weekend, and it's Jude Bellingham for the English national team. Harry Kane is widely regarded as one of the best strikers in the world. He is the best England player of all time, but it's Jude Bellingham, his young teammate, who plays kind of next to him up top as a 9 sometimes, as a number 10, and he is in a fantastic run of form right now. Back-to-back games with 2 goals, that stunning performance at El Azteca down in Mexico to get them into that quarterfinal. And then just a fantastic performance against Norway, where England didn't play all that well. And when you don't play all that well, you need your superstars to step up. Jude Bellingham stepped up and led England to the semifinal.
So, Dax, this is actually the first time that the World Cup semifinals has featured the 4 highest-ranked national teams in the world, as I'm sure you know. But, I mean, that just sets us up to be such an exciting last few days of this tournament. What do you think here for the teams that are still alive, especially after what you saw over the weekend?
This is what people come to see. You come to see superstars. And this has been a World Cup where all the superstars have stepped up and performed. Lamine Yamal for Spain, one of the youngest players in the competition, but one of the players with the most pressure on his shoulders, has actually not played all that well in terms of goal contributions. He's only got 1 goal in the entire tournament, but he also did come into this tournament carrying an injury. But other than that, you've had Lionel Messi playing some of the best soccer in the world, Erling Haaland, Harry Kane, Jude Bellingham. The superstars are performing at an incredibly high level. And look, I love an underdog story. I would have loved to see a team like Switzerland maybe get to a semifinal for the first time in their history. But at the end of the day, people want to see the stars and people want to see the best teams. And ultimately, no matter how they got there, no matter how well or not well they're playing, the best teams in the tournament, based on the FIFA ranking and based on the eye test, have made it to a semifinal in this World Cup. It's going to be absolutely box office, these semifinals coming up.
Are you surprised that we ended up with these known football powers and not one or two upsets?
It is a little bit surprising. Typically, look in any sport you want. Look in NCAA basketball, tennis, the NFL. It is very rare for all of the top seeds in all of these different sports to make it to the Final Four or even to the final. So for it to be the first time to happen in World Cup history, it is a little bit surprising because sometimes the pressure can even get to the biggest and best teams in the world. But at this moment in time, I don't think you're going to find anyone pushing back too much, especially from a neutral perspective, that you didn't get and that we aren't going to get the best possible matchups in this World Cup for the semifinals.
All right, we are, of course, going to put you on the spot here. What is your prediction on the finals matchup?
Well, listen, I watch soccer for a living, and sometimes a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then. My final that I have is France against England. And so I'm not going to go against that right now. France has been the most impressive team, top to bottom, in the entire tournament. They had the most impressive performance in the quarterfinal after they beat Morocco. So I'm sticking with France to win the tournament, the English national team to play against them, against Argentina, and I can't wait for these games.
Wow. Dax McCarty, thank you so much. We appreciate your time this morning. That was fun.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up, tough to stomach. When Morning News Now returns, we'll dig into how a nasty food-borne parasite has spread to thousands across America. It has officials stumped over where it all started. We've got more on that up next. We're back with a rapidly growing outbreak of a food-borne parasite that's sickened thousands of people across the U.S. CDC data shows that dozens have been hospitalized even as health officials race to identify the source and determine whether any of the outbreaks in these 31 states are connected. NBC News health and medical reporter Erica Edwards has the latest.
The search is on to find the source of a bug sending thousands of people running to the bathroom.
The cramping, the stomach pain, feels like someone is squeezing your insides.
Outbreaks of cyclosporiasis, a foodborne illness that causes intense diarrhea, now surpassing 3,000 cases according to an NBC News analysis of state health department data. The illness caused by a tiny parasite that can cling to fresh produce. But so far, no specific food has been identified as the source. Michigan is the epicenter, with almost 2,000 lab-confirmed cases.
What should people be doing? Should they stop eating fruits and vegetables?
Absolutely not. The safest way to protect yourself against cyclosporiasis is to wash it, peel it, and cook it.
31 states have reported cases, nearly 400 in New York, mostly clustered in New York City. Health officials there also dealing with an outbreak of Legionnaire's disease. 56 people sickened so far with the bacterial pneumonia that occurs when people breathe in tiny droplets of water contaminated with Legionella bacteria. Cooling towers in 31 buildings in the city's Upper East Side have tested positive for the bacteria, including the famed Guggenheim Museum, which says it took immediate steps for remediation. Officials still can't say for sure which of those buildings are causing the illnesses, but all have reportedly been disinfected. As investigations into both outbreaks continue, experts say getting tested is key. Antibiotics can treat both Legionnaire's disease and cyclosporiasis. Erica Edwards, NBC News.
Oh, all right, let's bring in NBC News medical contributor Dr. Kavita Patel for more on these growing health concerns. Dr. Patel, good morning. All right, so let's start on that cyclosporiasis. This is that foodborne illness, and outbreaks have been reported in at least 29 other states besides Michigan and New York, as we mentioned there. What do we know so far about how it's spreading, this whole thing with produce?
Yeah, so what we know, Savannah, is that there's two kind of working theories. This could have been spread kind of at the farm level. So think contaminated water into these fields, and then even several farms then are the sources for multiple other products that go all across the country. Or it could also be at the food prep handling level. So once you have something sourced from all these different farms, it takes time and people to get them into packages. That can be a potential chain so that the single-celled parasite known as cyclosporiasis can then get into those bags or other prep source materials. But those are the two working theories. But of course, this is a national outbreak, so everybody should be on alert to think about additional sources as well.
Why has it been so difficult for officials to pinpoint the source? Why is that tough?
We've talked about this a little bit. So we know that this is something that takes several weeks to kind of be allowed to both grow and then cause an infection in humans. Remember, this is not human to human. So this comes from the sources we're talking about, mainly the produce. And that is why it can take so long, because Savannah, if I ask you, you're sick, you've been sick probably for several days, and I say, hey, what have you eaten over the last 2 weeks? It can be hard for people, especially under illness and duress, to remember something. So that's a really big issue. The second is that I have never seen our local, state, and federal public health resources at such a low capacity. Savannah, we're talking many levels, not just at the national, but also at state and local kind of surveillance mechanisms are just under-resourced. So you've got an overstressed health source kind of staffing that needs to try to figure out an outbreak that's really literally unfolding hour by hour.
We all know to wash our produce anyway, but I think this is a good reminder, or really just to kind of take it seriously in terms of exactly how much you're washing it, how tough you are with it. But what else can people do to lower their risk of getting sick from this one, from cyclosporiasis?
Cyclosporiasis. So you heard from Erica's piece, the best advice. This doesn't mean you should stop eating fruits and vegetables. I want to stress that you should just be thoughtful about the sources of your fruits and vegetables. I think you heard the best advice from that doctor in Michigan, that if you can, you should boil it. Nobody wants to talk about boiled salad. In that case, you should try to get a head of lettuce, take off the outer part of that lettuce, because the inside then you can wash and that can be safe. And then what we found in most of the past outbreaks is that it's small leaves like cilantro and basil and some of those raspberries where you can have the chance for the parasite to kind of be tucked in and hard to clean. You may just want to separate that out and not use that. And you can also trim things like green onions on the outside and on the ends. All of this can help you still enjoy fruits and vegetables. I would encourage people to do that and not to forego on consumption.
All right, now let's talk the Legionnaire's disease outbreak here in New York City. So this is essentially like a severe form of pneumonia. It can become life-threatening. Right. What is the most important thing people need to do right now? And also, like the fact that it's, for people who don't know, on Manhattan's Upper East Side, it's like sort of concentrated there, and those buildings. Is that because it's some way related to each other, or a network? Is it random that it just so happens to be in one neighborhood in New York City?
Great questions. It's likely related to the cooling sources, those humidifiers that they've been showing. You just flashed on the screen, those kind of towers that sit on top of roofs that we just tend to ignore and go, what are those? Those are humidifiers. They take that, they basically take that kind of mist of cool air, and that's where people are getting infected from. What we're seeing on the screen here, it's not a source of water. You're not going to get this. Let me tell you what you're not going to get Legionnaires from. You're not going to get it from another person. You're not going to get it from tap water, and you're not going to get it by using your own air condition. This is really kind of identified in those cooling towers, that geographic vicinity. And Savannah, as we've heard, health officials have shut those towers down. So it's really now about identifying anyone with symptoms, come forward, get diagnosed, and it's treatable.
All right, Dr. Patel, really good stuff there. A lot of big headlines to get through. Appreciate it. Thank you. Coming up, a crazy wildlife encounter you are just going to have to see to believe. Watch this. There you go. You just saw it. When we come back, how a 65-year-old man ended up at the mercy of a Yellowstone bison, and what national park tourists should know about our neighbors in nature. That is next on Morning News Now. We are back now with terrifying images from one of the country's most iconic parks. Take a look at this. A 65-year-old man is recovering. Look at that video. He was thrown 8 feet in the air by a bison at Yellowstone National Park. The man and his grandson had taken a picture of the bison when it got up and charged in their direction. NBC News correspondent Camila Bernal has the details.
Everyone's bison! Look out, a bison! Look out! This was the terrifying scene at Yellowstone National Park. A bison charging toward a man and a young person. Moments before, the two taking photos from a distance as it lays down, when the animal gets up and bolts in their direction. They try to run and hide as the bison chases the man around a tree, shakes another one. And then the bison slams into that man with brutal force, throwing him feet into the air.
It was like watching a bulldozer move out at 45 miles an hour.
Photographer Mike McLeod recorded that video but stopped and ran to help.
And when you approach this man, how is he?
He was in a lot of pain. He was conscious, I think, the entire time.
The National Park Service confirming a 65-year-old man was injured by a bison and taken to the hospital. McLeod says he's in touch with the man's family.
It sounds like he has a broken leg in several places. The doctor said that he probably would recover, but it's going to be a long recovery.
The man's family telling NBC News he underwent surgery and remains at the hospital. This incident, the second in just 2 months at the park. In June, a 12-year-old was also hurt by a bison. The National Park Service says people should always stay more than 25 yards away from them and to run away if one charges.
Look out, a bison! Look out!
A frightening incident at one of America's most iconic parks. Camila Bernal, NBC News.
What a video. All right, well, two of the world's biggest tech titans are now engaged in a legal battle after Apple sued OpenAI on Friday. So the iPhone maker filed this lawsuit against the artificial intelligence company and two former Apple executives who now work at OpenAI. It accuses the defendants of working together to steal trade secrets and intellectual property. That includes Apple's product designs, manufacturing processes, and supply chain strategies. The lawsuit was filed in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California. It also claims the defendants poached more than 400 former Apple employees to go work at OpenAI. OpenAI pushed back against all the allegations, saying it has no interest in other companies' trade secrets. NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos joining us with more on this one. Danny, good morning. So, I mean, this is a pretty big escalation here between Apple and OpenAI after really the months of tension that we knew about. So the two companies, a little history here, they had joined forces back in 2024. It was really, the understanding was so that Apple could kind of try to gain some ground in the AI race, but their partnership started unraveling earlier this year. So walk us through the details of the lawsuit. What happened?
Exactly right, Savannah. But this lawsuit really isn't the clash of the titans that it may seem like in the beginning. And by that, I mean, really, that partnership that you just correctly described isn't at the core of this lawsuit. This lawsuit is more about, yes, it's against Open Foundation, OpenAI, but it's really against individuals that Apple alleges when they left the employ of Apple. They literally took devices, files, things with them. Here's the key, and it's especially so in California, which is not very strong on non-compete agreements, but that if you are a brilliant programmer, you can take your brain from one job to another. You can take your experience from one job to another, but you cannot take the old company's devices. And whether you're at Apple or just any regular company, most employees have known that for some time. You can't take the devices with you. And allegedly, these employees, one of them exploited a bug in the system to continue to access files and information at Apple. So this is a lawsuit that really isn't about company versus company and premised on this partnership that they had, but rather targeting the issue of people who leave Apple and take literal stuff with them to OpenAI.
So Apple's seeking a temporary court order here, and that requires the defendants to preserve any evidence, and also some of what you're saying here, like stop using any of Apple's technologies, and then also this sort of more nebulous thing, return all of its trade secrets. How do we ensure that that happens, and does the fact that it might be difficult to do so mean this could escalate to a trial?
Yeah, you've seized right on the issue. In many cases, the knowledge and intellectual property law struggles with this. The knowledge that you gain, how do you separate the actual intelligence or the experience of a programmer from trade secrets, which have to be guarded? And by the way, companies don't get the benefit of trade secrets unless they vigilantly guard those trade secrets. So that is one of the core issues here that the court will have to distinguish. But in all likelihood, Savannah, this will not go to trial. This is a narrow issue. It's about taking devices and information from Apple to OpenAI, allegedly, and far more likely, before this gets into discovery, before each side uncovers and exposes the inside communications and proprietary information, look for the parties to discuss and possibly achieve settlement early, not later in this case.
This is kind of what you're getting at, Danny, but like, how hard is it to legally protect company secrets like the ones that Apple claims were stolen, especially when it's just essentially like information that someone has in their head and then goes and works somewhere else?
Fortunately for Apple, there is a bright line in these allegations. And you're exactly right. This is what the entirety or a large part of intellectual property law has to struggle with, which is as you educate an employee, as they learn skills, big surprise. They're not going to change jobs and move to a totally different industry. They're going to stay within the industry. Now, industries try to use non-competes and non-disclosure agreements, but even those have limitations, constitutional limitations and fairness limitations. But at its core, once you educate and a programmer or an employee becomes experienced and knowledgeable, they become an asset. And the challenge is dividing or drawing a line between what they've learned and the skill they've gained from outright taking intellectual property, taking things. And fortunately here, the allegations draw a pretty bright line, and it's that devices and giving advice to Apple employees as to how to avoid or surreptitiously take this information to the next job. And again, this is all alleged at this point.
All right, Danny Cevallos, thank you so much. Well, coming up, he's a great American who, over the course of just a few years, changed the way millions look at Broadway. After the break, our own Tom Yamas sits down with the one and only Lin-Manuel Miranda for a candid conversation on the founding father who helped shake up the Great White Way. That's next. Finally this hour, as part of his Great American series, NBC nightly news anchor Tom Yamas sits down with a man who revolutionized the American musical before going on to pen some of the catchiest and most beloved animated soundtracks of the 21st century. We're talking about Lin-Manuel Miranda. Here's that conversation.
What do you love most about America?
I think my favorite thing about this country is the fact that immigrants are what make this country great.
You have no control. Who lives, who dies, who tells your story?
For Lin-Manuel Miranda, those words have become a life's work.
I'm just like my country, I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot.
Making him one of America's most influential storytellers.
Don't be shocked when your history book mentions me.
His own story beginning in Inwood, on the northern tip of Manhattan.
I grew up in an amazing immigrant neighborhood where English and Spanish was spoken in every store.
Did you know you were living in some place unique, some place special? You're speaking these two languages?
It wasn't until I started going to elementary school. So suddenly I'm commuting from uptown Manhattan to the Upper East Side. And that's a bit of a culture shock. I'm Lin at school because they cannot pronounce Lin-Manuel. I'm Lin-Manuel in my neighborhood. And then, you know, summers I'd get sent to my grandparents in Puerto Rico, where I was like the kid with the messed up gringuito accent.
Present in every one of those worlds, music, and lots of it.
It's Ruben Blades, it's Willie Colon, it's Mongo Santa Maria. It's like the glory of like the invention of New York salsa in the 70s. And then also like what my mom and dad bumped in the car was Man of La Mancha, Camelot, The Unsinkable Molly Brown. Probably more than anything, why I do what I do is because seeing my parents' reactions to music. It would make my mother cry, it would make my father dance, and I think I was drawn towards making the thing that makes people feel that deeply.
Everybody's got a job, everybody's got a dream.
His first musical turned movie, In the Heights, was a love letter to the community that raised him.
In the Heights exists because I wanted to see Latinos on stage. I wanted a life in this business, and I wanted a fuller picture than what I had seen so far on Broadway.
Then, a biography he read on vacation sparked an idea that wouldn't leave him alone.
My name is Alexander Hamilton.
Felt like a mosquito that hit an artery. I was like, there's so much here.
Did you ever think it would be $1 billion idea?
No. No. My optimistic sky-high hope was, we'll run 3 years on school groups.
We hold these truths to be self-evident.
Hamilton became a cultural phenomenon. One line in particular, still resonating with audiences a decade later.
Immigrants, we get the job done.
I remember between Off-Broadway and Broadway, we had to add extra bars of music because the cheering was so loud that you couldn't hear the next line.
Soon, Hollywood came calling.
We don't talk about Bruno, no, no, no.
And for Miranda, a lifelong fan of animation, it was a full circle moment.
And when you first started doing it, did you love it? Is it hard? Is it different?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was a dream because, you know, I think that when I saw The Little Mermaid in 1989, I still remember the feeling when this Caribbean calypso number underneath the water broke out in the middle of this Disney movie. And here's Under the Sea. I was like, this is an island jam. How is this possible?
And that Caribbean beat inspiring hits from Encanto and Moana. And for Miranda, storytelling has always come with a sense of responsibility. When Hurricane Maria devastated Puerto Rico, Miranda turned his attention there.
Your job is to jump up and scream as loud as you can to get attention to your brothers and sisters on the island.
A role he will always play as he writes America's story.
When our children tell our story, and when our children tell our story, they'll tell the story of tonight.
Our country has grown and changed and adapted in so many ways, and so many of the brilliant innovations that have benefited this country are from immigrants or children of immigrants. And I believe that the people who come here from somewhere else to make a better life for themselves end up making a better country for us.
A powerful message there. Our thanks to Tom and Lin-Manuel Miranda for that awesome conversation. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now. Stay with us, though. The news continues right now. Good morning. Thank you so much for starting your week with us. I'm Savannah Sellers. Joe is off today. Right now on Morning News Now, Washington in mourning. Reaction from leaders across the country and the world pouring in over the sudden and shocking death of South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. What we know about his cause of death and the political influence he leaves behind coming up. New escalation in the Middle East. Iran launching retaliatory strikes on U.S. allies in the region overnight after the U.S. said it hit, quote, dozens of targets in its territory. Control of the Strait of Hormuz remaining a major sticking point for both sides as we near the halfway point of a 60-day deadline to reach a deal. We have the latest from the region. Plus, flash flooding, summer storms bringing destruction to large swaths of the country over the weekend. Heavy rains and pump problems submerging parts of New Orleans. While in Missouri, the flooding prompted emergency evacuations of a summer camp. The National Guard airlifting stranded campers to safety. The cleanup efforts now underway and the forecast heating up across the country later this hour. And final matchups. The World Cup semifinals are set after dramatic wins from England and Argentina over the weekend. The two teams now set to renew their rivalry for a spot in the finals. We have what you need to know about these latest matchups ahead of the beautiful game's biggest game. A lot to come this week in the World Cup. We're very excited about that. Thanks again for starting your Monday with us. We're going to begin this hour with the passing of South Carolina's powerful Republican Senator Lindsey Graham. Lawmakers from both sides of the aisle are reacting to Graham's sudden death over the weekend. He had just returned from a trip to Ukraine when emergency crews were called to his house Saturday evening for what his office says was a heart issue. NBC News Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles has the latest on this. Ryan, good morning.
There were no signs the veteran senator was dealing with any serious health issues, so his death came as a complete shock to the many who knew him. He was actively engaged in a re-election bid for his fifth term in the Senate and was scheduled to be a guest on Meet the Press Sunday morning. Instead, his family and close friends are now mourning the loss of a unique and at times controversial Washington institution.
Washington is mourning the loss of one of their own today, with the sudden passing of South Carolina's longtime Republican fixture, Senator Lindsey Graham. The preliminary medical examiner's report revealing a tear in the aorta, the main artery from the heart, led to his death. That tear likely caused by long-term hardening of his arteries. Paramedics rushed to Graham's home Saturday night. These images obtained by NBC News show their response.
Cardiac arrest.
By early Sunday morning, his office announced he'd passed away. President Trump responding to the news on Meet the Press, where Graham was scheduled to be a guest.
He's going to be appreciated more now than he was when he was living.
The president talked to Graham Saturday night.
He got back, said he just landed from Ukraine. I said, that's a long trip to make. And he said, he sounded a little tired, but perfect, but a little bit tired.
Despite his initial concerns over Trump winning the GOP nomination, Graham eventually became a bulldog for the president on Capitol Hill. fiercely enforcing Trump's agenda and passionately defending his nominations, including Supreme Court pick Brett Kavanaugh.
This is the most unethical sham since I've been in politics.
As well as pushing his foreign policy, something that the president paid tribute to in a social media post overnight, where you can see Graham holding a fake Wikipedia page claiming Trump as the acting president of Venezuela. In the wake of the January 6 riots, Graham questioned his allegiance to Trump.
Count me out. Enough is enough.
But he later championed Trump's return to the White House. His absence removes a major GOP voice in favor of the use of American military might, including the defense of Ukraine and Israel. Graham's colleagues on both sides of the aisle paying tribute.
America's lost a statesman, but more importantly, I've lost a friend.
No better friend, no tougher adversary.
With Graham gone, the focus turns to Senator Mitch McConnell, who for the first time Sunday released a statement about his lengthy hospital stay. McConnell saying he lost consciousness after a fall, but did not have a heart attack or a stroke, adding he caught pneumonia in the hospital.
The medical examiner said that toxicology and microscopic tests still need to be finished before Graham's official cause of death will be revealed. South Carolina's governor will appoint a replacement to fill out Graham's term until the end of the year, and the state will then hold a snap primary to replace Graham's name on the ballot for the fall election. In both cases, he'll likely be replaced by a Republican.
All right, Ryan, thank you so much. Well, let's continue this conversation with Jessica Taylor. She's the Senate editor for the Cook Political Report. Jessica, good morning. Thanks for being here. So you spent many years, I know, covering Lindsey Graham. I just am wondering, right out of the gate, what was the first thing you thought about when you got the news of his passing?
It was just complete shock. I mean, he's such a lion of the Senate. And I actually thought back to just his friendship with John McCain and Joe Lieberman and how they were seen as the three amigos sort of traveling the country during the 2008 campaign. And of course, McCain and Lieberman have already passed. So I think, you know, they're reunited somewhere. It's just really, really hard to imagine a Senate without a Senator Lindsey Graham.
Graham was an unapologetic hawk when it came to foreign policy. He was a staunch ally of Israel and its war on Gaza. He was also a big supporter of U.S. wars, controversial ones even, too, in Iraq, more recently Iran, just to name a few things here. Do you think that that will be a big piece of his legacy?
I do. I mean, I think that, you know, he was one of the, you know, Republicans writ large have not gotten on board with Trump's foreign policy this cycle. You know, Trump was not a hawk. I think that Graham saw, you know, he famously opposed Trump in 2016, even ran against him. And I think that he used his influence to influence Trump on foreign policy. And it will be interesting to see what direction the president takes without Lindsey Graham in his ear. But he was one of the fiercest defenders within the Republican caucus. Certainly, this war in Iran is very unpopular with not just Republican voters, but with voters overall. And so, you know, losing one of the champions of this policy. And, you know, I think of Ukraine, too. Trump has not been the strongest ally of Ukraine either. And you always had Graham there in his ear, sort of steering him back. In fact, of course, the very last trip that he made was to Ukraine. And so you know, it's still just very surreal to even be talking about this because he was such an influence. And, you know, you knew that he would always give you a quote. You knew that he would always answer questions. He was a very press-friendly senator, and I think believed in the free press, and, you know, always would talk about these things.
We just heard a bit about this from Ryan there, but what comes next for South Carolina? What are some of the names being floated as replacements?
Governor Henry McMaster could appoint a caretaker, perhaps, to, you know, run for either someone who might run for the seat full time or someone who would fill the seat until January. I wouldn't be surprised to see that appointment be pretty soon. I actually think it's probably what Graham would have wanted so that it wouldn't hold up Senate business, because the Senate has a lot on its plate, from judges to the defense authorization bill, all things that Graham championed. He was chair of the Budget Committee. So there's a lot of work before the Senate, before they leave for the August recess and before the midterms really take complete control of everyone's psyche there. You know, they had a governor's race that there were several runners up that could look at there. that either Governor McMaster could appoint or that they could run for this primary, which will happen next month. The Lieutenant Governor Pamela Yvette, she finished second in a runoff there. You could see Congressman Ralph Norman has indicated he might be interested and will make an announcement on Tuesday. You have Congresswoman Nancy Mace. There could be Congressman Russell Fry. There could be some state legislators that might be interested. So I think that we're still looking at the names that might be interested, but I would, in sort of a similar vein to what's happening in Maine, I would look to sort of the former gubernatorial candidates as potential names to run there, since they already had campaigns in place and might be able to sort of jump in there pretty quickly.
That makes sense. Jessica, I do want to ask you about another leader here. We're following new developments over the health of senior Republican Senator Mitch McConnell. We'd been wondering what was going on here and do finally have the statement from his office on his hospitalization saying he still has unfinished business to complete for his constituents. What do you make of this situation? Do you think that it's likely we will actually see him back at work anytime soon?
I mean, it appears as though he's in a rehab facility. I know that from personal experience with my own parents, that can take time. I maybe in a couple of weeks or another month, but that is a long absence from the Senate when they have just such a very narrow majority. And then now with losing Senator Graham, they're down 2 votes, which again, going back is why I think that the governor of South Carolina might make a pretty quick appointment. But McConnell seems very intent on remaining there through the end of his term. He is not running for re-election. The longer that he is out, he's also could be a vote against some of Donald Trump's picks. So this could be very important in determining the next, leader of the intelligence community and the attorney general as well.
Jessica Taylor, we appreciate your time. Really great to get to talk with somebody who knows this so intimately and was super aware of Lindsey Graham's legacy. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Well, in the Middle East, Iran is launching retaliatory strikes on U.S. allies this morning following U.S. attacks on its territory. The Strait of Hormuz continues to be a point of contention between both sides. The U.S. military says it hit dozens of targets in Iran over the weekend in what it says is response to Iranian attacks on commercial ships in the Strait. NBC News International correspondent Matt Bradley joins us from Tel Aviv with the latest. Matt, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. So that's right. We heard the U.S. had said that they've now fired 3 salvos of airstrikes against Iran, as you mentioned, in retaliation for what the U.S. said were Iranian attacks on commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz that set the whole region back on the brink of war about a month after that ceasefire deal was signed. Overnight, shots fired across the Middle East. U.S. Central Command announcing a new wave of airstrikes against Iran, targeting Iranian military air defense, radar sites, and drones. Iran's military firing back, saying it struck U.S. bases in Jordan, Bahrain, and Kuwait overnight. Iranian state media showing these videos of what they called retaliation, but that NBC News couldn't independently verify. While this video shows a strike near a United Nations encampment near Kuwait's border with Iraq. President Trump told NBC's Kristen Welker the attacks were retaliation for Iranian strikes against shipping in the Strait of Hormuz.
We bombed the hell out of them last night. They're very, very evil and sick people.
The president said the Iranians had already agreed with the U.S. on a comprehensive deal that included major Iranian concessions before Iran opened fire again.
They agreed to a deal yesterday, a perfect deal for us. And then after that, they left the room. And then within an hour, they launched a drone at a ship.
The president told Meet the Press the Strait of Hormuz remains open, even though Iran had said earlier that it was closed. The latest salvos follow days of renewed fighting between the U.S. and Iran that effectively canceled the Trump administration's ceasefire and have already sent oil prices surging again as markets opened this morning. Now, with attacks on both sides escalating, it appears the fragile ceasefire may be unraveling. And, we are still hearing from both sides in this conflict. The Iranians came out, their foreign ministry spokesperson, and blamed the U.S. for violating the ceasefire deal, saying that these U.S. strikes had gone against the memorandum of understanding that President Trump signed with Iran last month. Savannah?
All right, Matt, thank you very much. Well, this morning, 59 million people across the country are waking up under heat alerts, with large parts of the Great Plains seeing temperatures well above normal. It comes after a weekend of devastating flooding in the Northeast and Midwest, like in Missouri, we're showing you here, where the National Guard had to rescue a group of kids from a summer camp in the southern part of the state. For more, let's bring in NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster, who joins us from Chicago with the latest. Hey, Shaq, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah, and it is expected to be a hot one here in Chicago. It's probably a good bet that you'll see some kids, maybe even some adults, enjoying these splash pads here at Navy Pier as a heat wave begins to set in. Meanwhile, out east this morning, many folks cleaning up after another round of weekend dangerous, severe summer storms.
This morning, large sections of the country cleaning up after a weekend of intense storms. Parts of Pennsylvania hit hard and fast. Straight line winds knocking down so many trees and power lines in Philadelphia, the city's mayor issuing a disaster declaration. The roof of this apartment building ripped off and tossed into the street.
Heard a giant boom, and I'm like, did we get hit by lightning? And then I looked out the front door and saw the roof was on top of my vehicle.
Across parts of the South, the rain kept coming in waves. From Louisiana,
y'all know I love the rain, but this is not good.
To Missouri, where RVs lost their grip on the soggy ground and slid toward the water. In Tennessee, water surged through the streets, sweeping along debris and triggering mudslides. It comes as another life-threatening heat dome is building up in the West, producing stifling triple-digit temperatures and putting more than 46 million people under heat alerts. As crews battled growing wildfires in California over the weekend, prompting evacuation warnings.
Now back here in Chicago, and the National Weather Service is warning folks that even as these hot temperatures are more typical for this part of the year, they're saying to make sure you follow those heat safety guidelines, especially as the humidity picks up later in the week. Meanwhile, we know some more severe storms and even potential flash flooding is in the forecast for the South later this week, and that's why the governor of Texas activating emergency response systems ahead of that more severe weather to come. Savannah?
All right, Shaq, stay cool. Thank you so much. Well, the sizzling summer heat continues today. 4 parts of the country, as we're talking about, so we're going to bring in NBC News meteorologist Andrea Romero. She's got the latest on that and more. Andrea, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah. And we have this massive dome of heat that's just basically baking the northern tier of the country. We have 90 million people that are being impacted by these heat alerts that stretch all the way from the Great Basin into the northern plains, the Great Lakes, and even into the northeast. So we're talking about very warm temperatures and, of course, also those high humidity levels, which are causing those above average temperatures, and we're leading to those triple-digit feels-like temperatures as well. So we have this northern warmth right now expanding across the northern tier, and we're looking at temperatures around 10 to 20 degrees above average, and we're expecting that warm air, that hot air, to continue to expand eastward and even into the northeast. We're looking at several days of above 90-degree weather that will persist throughout the midweek. And now, as far as the storms, we are tracking some storms right now along the Gulf Coast and over here over parts of North Carolina. We do have this flash flood warning in this area. We've seen an estimate of about 8 inches that has fallen already, so quite dangerous conditions there. And this flash flood risk extends all the way into the southwest, where we have that monsoonal moisture that's setting up this week. So we're expecting some afternoon, evening thunderstorms to develop in Arizona, New Mexico. And we also have a lot of rain that's going to be coming into western Texas for this week. So it's going to be a wet one, with rainfall forecast calling for over 3 to 4 inches of rainfalls in some areas across the southern tier of the country. And also here in parts of New England, heads up, because we do have an unusual weather setup with the possibility of some severe weather for tomorrow afternoon. We're talking about damaging winds, hail, and even the possibility of an isolated tornado. Savannah, back to you.
All right, Andrea, covering a lot. Thank you so much. Famed actor Sam Neill, who passed away in Australia this morning, according to his family. Neill had a storied career appearing in over 150 films, but he is probably best known for his role as Dr. Alan Grant in Steven Spielberg's iconic Jurassic Park. NBC News correspondent Kaylee Hartung has a look back at his life and legacy. Kaylee, good morning.
Hey there. Sam Neill was a staple in Hollywood hits and well loved by so many in the industry. With dozens of appearances on both the big and small screen, Neill had the rare ability to jump from blockbusters to indies and enjoy every step of the journey.
Abby Settler.
Alan Grant.
For millions of film lovers, Sam Neill was Dr. Alan Grant.
Don't move. You can't see us if we don't move.
The reluctant hero who brought heart, humor, and humanity to Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park.
They're moving in herds.
The global blockbuster made him an international star, cementing his place in cinematic history.
Don't move.
But the 78-year-old's career stretched far beyond dinosaurs.
I'm going on board her.
From the thriller Dead Calm.
Can you hear me?
To Oscar-winning film The Piano. The actor, born in Northern Ireland and raised in New Zealand, built a remarkable career spanning more than 5 decades, becoming one of the most recognizable and respected actors of his generation. More recently, appearing on Netflix acclaimed series Peaky Blinders.
Just wanted to show me that you know where I live, isn't that it?
Cillian Murphy praised his work in an interview earlier this year.
I adored working with Sam Neill in Series 1. He's one of my favorite people in the world.
And even in his 70s, Neill showed no interest in slowing down, joking about retirement on Today 2 years ago.
I never want to retire because I love my work so much. What do you do in retirement? You play golf.
And just last month, sharing a post at Australia's ARIA Hall of Fame. His family announcing the news of his sudden and unexpected passing. In a statement writing, Sam was surrounded by family and passed with the dignity that has characterized his whole life. In recent years, Neill opened up about his battle with blood cancer, sharing earlier this year that he was cancer-free, telling Australia's Channel 7 in a recent interview,
There is no cancer in my body. This is an extraordinary thing.
the beloved actor's death shocking fans around the world, leaving behind a legacy of memorable performances that will continue to captivate audiences for generations to come.
We're hearing from some of Sam Neill's former co-stars this morning. Richard E. Grant calling him a gentleman in the truest sense, and Toni Collette calling him a legend and a sweetheart. Back to you.
Oh, Kaylee, thank you. What a look back, and we're thinking of his family. There's much more to come here on Morning News Now, including an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at Christopher Nolan's highly anticipated film, The Odyssey. As Kaylee, she once again is going to be back with us. She's going to sit down with the star-studded cast. But at first, growing calls for answers in the mysterious death of Mississippi teen Nolan Wells. That is up next. Welcome back. Now to this shocking video that shows the moment a bison charged directly at visitors in Yellowstone National Park and seriously injured a man who was spending the day there with his grandson. NBC News correspondent Camila Bernal joins us with more on this from Los Angeles. Camila, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. So the National Park Service confirmed that a 65-year-old man was injured by a bison on Friday evening. And now his family is telling NBC News he's recovering from surgery and is still at the hospital. The park also says that visitors should stay at least 25 yards away from all large animals. And the guy who took this video says that the campers really appear to be doing everything right.
A terrifying encounter at Yellowstone National Park over the weekend.
Look out, a bison!
This bison barreling towards a man and his grandson and launching the 65-year-old into the air. Moments earlier, the two visitors stopped to take photos of the animal lying in the grass before it began rolling and then charging at a passing car. The park guests spotted running away from the animal, who proceeded to chase them through the trees. The bison catching up, sending the man flying several feet into the air.
It went from a little bit of amusing to watch to critical emergency.
Photographer Mike McLeod filmed the whole thing before running to help.
I stopped the video because I could see that bison was standing over him and he was pumping his head, very aggressive and agitated. And I knew that somebody had to distract that thing.
He says he and other campers ran at the bison, chasing it away and then tending to the man who he says was in a lot of pain. The man's family telling NBC News he underwent surgery and remains at the hospital. The park says visitors should stay at least 25 yards away from all large animals. But the photographer who captured it all said the campers appear to be doing everything right.
What are your thoughts when you watch that video?
They were doing everything right. They were respectful. And once the bison showed any agitation, they left. And they were just at the wrong time in the wrong place.
And the park says that bison are unpredictable. They will defend their space when threatened. So remember, the key is to maintain that distance. And if you're approached or charged at, immediately walk or run away. They are the largest land mammals in North America, with male bison weighing up to 2,000 pounds. And according to the park, bison have injured more people in Yellowstone than any other animal. Savannah.
Wow, just what a video all captured there. Camila, thank you so much. Well, it is a royal reunion many thought might never happen. King Charles hosted Prince Harry, Meghan, and their 2 children for a private family visit. The first time the king has seen his grandchildren, Archie and Lilibet, in person in more than 4 years. NBC News correspondent Danielle Hamamdjian joins us from London with the details on this one. Danielle, good morning. So, first let's just start with what we know about this visit, how, why, where it took place.
Good morning, Savannah. Yeah, from the moment it was announced that Prince Harry would be coming to the UK to promote his Invictus Games, inevitably there was some speculation. Would Meghan and the children join him and finally see King Charles? King Charles had not seen his grandchildren in 4 years. Well, in the end, yes, that family reunion did happen. No, unfortunately, no pictures to show you. Buckingham Palace releasing a statement on Friday afternoon saying that Their Majesties, Charles and Camilla, of course, hosted the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet at Highgrove House. That's one of the royal residences outside London. The palace also said that since this was a private family occasion, there will be no images released, as both parties wanted this to be kept as private as possible. So the meeting suggests that perhaps Prince Harry and his father, 77-year-old King Charles, are finally starting to patch things up after a few turbulent years, Savannah.
Given the security concerns and the years of tension, let's just talk through what had to happen behind the scenes to make this family reunion a reality, just how orchestrated it all needed to be.
Yeah. Well, we can only speculate, of course, from the outside. And I can tell you that it's never really straightforward when Prince Harry comes to London or comes to the UK. There was so much talk about, first of all, his security, his accommodations. Well, first of all, he's lost the right to have taxpayer-funded security a few years ago. So that issue is very important to him, especially when it comes to London. On the issue of his accommodation, we talked about this last week. There was talk of him perhaps staying at Buckingham Palace right behind me. The offer had been made by the palace, but it turns out Prince Harry RSVP'd too late. Now, just to provide a bit of context here, there is construction work going on at the palace. You can't see it now behind me, but palace officials say that parts of the palace do look like a construction site. So they needed a few days to get everything ready. But many people believe the real reason why perhaps they could not accommodate Prince Harry here is because there was this impending verdict on the last legal case brought against the British media organizations here. The verdict was going to come out on Tuesday, did come out on Tuesday last week, but he would have been staying here on that same day. And the optics just didn't look good for his father, of course, who has to maintain, who has to consider and not have compromised his constitutional position.
Danielle, of course, people are also hoping to eventually see a reunion between Prince Harry and his brother, Prince William, something that did not happen during this weekend trip. Do we know where Prince William was when this meeting took place? Any information there?
Yeah, I think it's safe to say it would have been shocking if both brothers had finally met. Prince William was at a charity polo match, and once upon a time, Savannah, we would have seen Harry play alongside his brother William, but times have changed. There have been TV interviews, the famous Oprah interview, the tell-all book, the Netflix series since then. And you ask a lot of people here, and they believe that in doing so, Prince Harry not only betrayed his family, but betrayed his brother. So there appears to be still quite a bit of tension between the brothers. There was no meeting announced, and it might be a while before a meeting is announced between the brothers, who have not been seen together in quite a few years.
All right, Danielle, thank you so much. Well, coming up, keeping up with Washington, we're following the latest headlines out of our nation's capital, including the media organization facing legal trouble from the Trump administration. That and more of what is happening in politics now. That's up next. Back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with the Trump administration issuing subpoenas to New York Times journalists. NBC News politics reporter Megan Brandt has more on that. Megan, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. Yeah, let's start at the Justice Department, which the New York Times says subpoenaed 4 of its journalists on Friday. According to the Times, this comes after the reporters wrote stories about security concerns related to the new Air Force One. The journalists are now being asked to testify before a grand jury on Wednesday. A DOJ spokesperson said in a statement that people leaking classified information were the target of the investigation, not the reporters. Let's turn next to a new move by the Trump administration that effectively limits the Endangered Species Act. The administration is taking out regulatory language that was intended to protect wildlife habitats. Now habitat destruction won't be considered harm as defined in the Endangered Species Act. The administration said that the move will reduce costs for companies like energy producers and farms. Finally, let's turn to California. That's where voters will decide this fall whether to impose a one-time wealth tax, which has been dubbed the billionaire's tax. The measure would require that most of the money collected from the tax is spent on health care. But some unions and Democrats are opposing the measure because they think that the money should be spent differently. Some are also arguing that the tax could lead to very wealthy Californians leaving the state. The union organizing the ballot measure, though, argues that the move is necessary to respond to Medicaid cuts. And that's a look at what's making news in politics this morning. Savannah?
All right, Megan, thank you so much. Well, now to the latest on the growing controversy surrounding the death of 18-year-old Nolan Wells. Mississippi officials say the black teenager died under what they describe as mysterious circumstances during a 4th of July boat trip with friends. Now, as his parents continue to search for answers, members of their community came together for a peaceful protest demanding transparency in the investigation. Senior national correspondent and NBC News daily anchor Kate Snow joins us with more. Kate, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah. So I sat down with the heartbroken parents of Nolan Wells. They told me they're taking things 1 second at a time. His mother saying you don't expect to bury a child. Over the weekend, more than 100 people gathered in the heat in the coastal Mississippi town of Ocean Springs with signs that read "Justice for Nolan" and "Hope for Nolan." A community in mourning and demanding answers.
And we just want to know what happened to Nolan.
After the mysterious death of Mississippi teenager Nolan Wells following a boat trip with friends to Horn Island on the 4th of July. His mother contacted authorities late that night when he didn't come home.
Needs to report her 18-year-old son, Nolan Wells, missing last seen at 3 on Horn Island.
Christine Wells-Wansley told us she got a call Saturday night from one of the friends Nolan went to the island with. What did he say?
He said, "Hey, Miss Christine, have you seen Nolan or talked to Nolan?" I said, "No, I thought he was with you guys, you know." He's like, "No, nobody's talked to him."
Early the next morning, Nolan's father, Elmore, says his son's high school football coach took him out on a boat to search.
Got out the boat, walked the island, and then got back on the boat and went around the island.
Did you see anything?
Nothing.
The Coast Guard and United Cajun Navy searching simultaneously, but it was a day later when Nolan's body was recovered.
There's basically a black hole between about 4:30 on the 4th of July in the afternoon until when Nolan was found.
Authorities have not released a cause of death.
Do you think there's a possibility that your son drowned accidentally?
Honestly, because of the way the stories are just so inconsistent and how that day went, it's just, we can't say for sure.
His grieving parents believe race may have been a factor in his death.
I don't want to believe it is, but unfortunately, there's evidence to show that things like this happen. He just had a big heart. To really know Nolan, to have him as your friend it was something special.
Do you worry that he might have trusted too much?
Sometimes, yeah. And that was something we always talked to him about.
His parents are also concerned that they tracked Nolan's cell phone, and they say they found it at another house, a house of his friend, on land, Savannah. So, in other words, his phone came back without him. And his mom said to me, what teenager would leave their phone behind like that or let it go back without him? Results from a Jackson County medical examiner autopsy have not come out yet. Also, results from a family-ordered autopsy that they did independently are not out just yet either.
All right, and family's still waiting on that, it sounds like. Kate, thank you so much. Well, coming up, the return of endless eating. The major chain bringing back its never-ending pasta bowl as other restaurants ramp up all-you-can-eat deals to keep budget-conscious diners happy. That's next. We are back with how one university is getting tough on technology. Starting in the fall, the University of Chicago Law School will ban all electronics in class for first-year law students in an effort to combat the use of artificial intelligence. Reporter Rose Schmidt from NBC Chicago has more.
What does it mean to think critically as a lawyer? What does it mean to listen to your clients and understand what's really motivating them?
These are the questions Professor Mark Templeton wants his law students to focus on. And that focus starts with good classroom discussions. Some of his University of Chicago colleagues enacted laptop bans last year and saw positive results.
Then people are focused on the discussion and on engaging with each other and not just typing away and looking down at their screens.
Templeton is part of the law school's AI committee formed in 2023, not long after ChatGPT started operating. A new memo outlines why it's now banning electronics in class for first years, explaining that students should learn how to think critically and solve legal problems with sound professional judgment.
I'm pretty anti-AI, so I see bad in pretty much all cases.
Master's student Katie Varon says she's seen peers use AI to summarize readings they haven't done fully.
I've taken classes where AI is actually part of the homework assignments, and I have dropped those classes because I don't want to be forced to use AI.
Other students see the good and the bad, especially if you're not fact-checking the information.
I think it's better if they teach them how to use it properly instead of forbidding it.
I think it makes sense to regulate it, but I think we shouldn't deny the fact that it is part of our lives now and is very useful.
Our thanks to Rose Schmidt for that report. Well, the law school memo also says legal technology is changing so fast, there's no guarantee the AI tools of today will still be relevant when students start practicing law. Well, now to a long-awaited announcement from one of America's favorite chain restaurants. Olive Garden is bringing back its never-ending pasta bowl and the pasta pass for the first time in years. This comes as more restaurants are getting in on this all-you-can-eat craze that is looking to keep customers' wallets and stomachs full. NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung is here now with more on this and what you should know before you head out to your local Olive Garden. Brian, good morning.
I mean, who doesn't love a little carbo loading? Am I right? Good morning, or buongiorno, as they say at the Olive Garden, where a major deal for all of those pasta fans is making a comeback. Yes, the never-ending pasta bowl will soon be back on the menu, and get this, after a 6-year hiatus, the chain is bringing back that social media favorite, the never-ending pasta pass, all giving its loyal customers new ways to save on their next meal.
Never-ending pasta bowl's back.
It's the pasta deal that can bring Breadstick Nation to tears.
You deserve it. You deserve it.
This morning, Olive Garden announcing it's bringing back its viral never-ending pasta bowl, and even answering pleas from true linguine lovers.
Please bring back the never-ending pasta pass too.
Yes, starting Thursday, the never-ending pasta pass will once again be available for purchase. For $100 plus tax, cardholders can enjoy 13 weeks stuffed with unlimited pasta beginning next month. For everyone else, the never-ending pasta bowl promotion will start at $14.99.
Olive Garden, all-you-can-eat pasta. I don't think y'all are ready.
It all comes as consumers are craving better deals.
When did eating out start costing so much?
Is there somewhere affordable to eat out?
One 2025 survey found a widening value gap has diners rethinking their habits, with more than a third of Americans saying they're eating at restaurants less often than they did a year prior.
Where are diners right now in terms of trying to find value?
Half of consumers are really cutting back. They want something really good for the money that they're going to give restaurants. And all you can eat is one way to do that.
But the OG isn't the only offering for those looking to stretch their dollar and stomachs.
Bottomless apps to B-dubs, we the best.
Buffalo Wild Wings is serving a bottomless appetizer starting at $9.99.
Another one.
While Applebee's is turning up the heat with select all-you-can-eat entrees.
That's unlimited value for $15.99.
Even Red Lobster looked to reel in some deal-hungry diners this summer.
Endless Shrimp is back.
Briefly bringing back Endless Shrimp, a promotion that helped sink the chain into bankruptcy back in 2024.
Endless can't last forever.
Experts say this bounty of deals is the industry's reaction to the casual dining dip, which has forced chains to come up with more offerings that will entice consumers to come back to the table.
This is the biggest value environment that we've seen since the Great Recession. I mean, we're not seeing things like dollar menus, but we are seeing a lot of aggressive offers.
Meaning all you can eat could be making an even bigger comeback as Olive Garden gets ready to shell out never-ending pasta and add some sauce to the bottom line.
I can smell those breadsticks already. And if you're worried about never-ending pasta bringing an end to the unlimited soup, salad, and breadsticks, fear not, that's still sticking around. And for those that are looking to get their hands on that unlimited pasta pass, the company says only 10,000 are going to be made available. And the last time they offered that, they sold out in seconds. Now, I should point out that, again, you get the pass beginning on Thursday. You can begin using it towards the end of August, and then the last week of August through basically the end of the year, at least you'll have the pasta bowl promotion for people that don't have the pass but want to eat a lot of pasta in the store. So options out there.
Okay. Well, I'm hungry.
What's your favorite pasta?
Oh my God. Well, I do like the Olive Garden meatballs, I will say, but also all the Applebee's appetizers you just showed me there.
Yeah.
My mouth is watering.
Yep. The artichoke dip was a favorite of mine.
Yeah.
I think that's still on the menu.
Mozzarella sticks.
Yeah.
All right, Brian, thank you so much for that. Now I'm going to eat like crap all day. All right, speaking of comebacks, nostalgia is trending in a big way this year. From technology to music, even toys, the majority of Americans, we've learned, are more likely to buy a product that makes them feel sentimental. And so a lot of companies are trying to cash in on that. Hasbro is joining the trend with a new twist on an old classic, Play-Doh. NBC News correspondent Valerie Castro has more on the company's new toy that's designed for adults who want to unplug.
Another beloved toy making a comeback.
When you got Play-Doh, whoa, anything goes.
But this time around, it's for adults. Hasbro launching Blooms by Play-Doh, marketed as a way to make floral arrangements. The company calling it a more elevated, hands-on way to slow down, get lost in the process, and create something beautiful. It's all part of a bigger trend to unplug and rewind, with many brands banking on nostalgia. In 2021, Lego introduced a floral collection targeting adults too, and we've been following as old TV shows get a reboot.
It's good to be back.
The music scene singing a familiar tune, with adults flocking to concerts for decades-old acts. Old tech also seeing a resurgence: digital cameras, iPods, and vinyl records.
I can't tell you how many times this has kept me off my phone.
In 2025, at least 71% of Gen Z said they bought a nostalgic item in the past year, according to one consumer research firm. Play-Doh, of course, conjuring nostalgia not just for Gen Z. The squishy material kept generations of kids entertained. It first originated in the 1950s, used as a product to clean wallpaper, later making its way into kindergarten classrooms to create clay models. The company now banking on adults to have the $25 to spend per kit to help them disconnect, building a new mold for an old toy. Valerie Castro, NBC News.
That looks like fun. I might want to give that a shot. All right, coming up, we are hearing from the cast of the year's most eagerly awaited film, The Odyssey. Our Kaylee Hartung sat down with Matt Damon, Anne Hathaway, and the other big stars here to get the inside story about an epic shoot like no other. That's next. Welcome back. One of the year's biggest movies is almost here. Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. It's from our sister company, Universal Pictures, and it sails into theaters this Friday. The film is packed with stars: Matt Damon, Anne Hathaway, Tom Holland, Robert Pattinson, and more. And it's the first Hollywood feature shot entirely on IMAX 70mm film. NBC News correspondent Kaylee Hartung sat down with Nolan and this star-studded cast for a look behind the scenes.
Promise me you will come back.
What if I can't?
I want to help our audience understand. When you hear that this is the first film ever shot entirely on IMAX, what do audiences need to understand about what a challenge and accomplishment that is?
I think what they need to understand is when you go see this movie in a theater, we've shot it to the highest technical standard possible, so that wherever you get to see this film, it'll be as big and as sharp and as clear as it possibly can. And the point of that is to take the audience on this journey. to take them onto Odysseus' ship with the rest of the crew, to take them into the Cyclops' cave. That's really the point of it.
The technical side of it is such a surprise, just how much equipment there is, how many people there are.
Being on set and getting the opportunity to just sit back and watch. I remember when you guys did your big scene, I was wrapped for the day and sort of stuck around because I was so curious to see how they would tackle such a challenge. I think, Matt, you said this, that it's the quietest scene that's ever been shot on IMAX.
1 or 2 words to describe the experience of the Odyssey.
It was a toss-up between affirming and inspiring. I'm really inspired by what we do. He just shows that with a brilliant team, because all of us, we're the ensemble cast, but we had the most unbelievable crew. Zendaya?
Just incredibly fulfilling. I think, it's a bit of a dream kind of opportunity to be a part of, to be with all of these incredible talents that I get to share this room with. And every day I was there, I wanted to try my best to compartmentalize my excitement and a little bit anxiety and fear too, because you want to do a good job and just be present so that I could try to enjoy it and sponge up as much as I can.
Rob?
Some kind of fantastical kind of word. I mean, we are trying to do, making something which just seems so completely outrageous. I don't think any of us are going to experience anything like this ever again in our careers. I guess fantastical and delusional.
I love Lupita?
I would say adventurous. Where we shot, they were just these epic locations, a reminder of how beautiful and varied our world is.
Of the 6 countries that you all shot in, you 2 out of this group would have been the only ones to go to all 6, right?
Probably.
You guys all had a bunch of countries on.
I was going to say, everyone went a lot of places.
I popped into quite a few, but I don't think I did all of them. I think
you did most of them.
I did most of them. I didn't go to Greece.
That's true.
Greece was nice.
Were there any locations that you all were jealous that you missed? Or when you hear Matt's stories, you're like, nope, I'm good.
I wanted to go to Iceland.
Yeah, Iceland sounded amazing.
Yeah.
Anybody who went to Iceland care to dispel that?
They're very lucky they didn't go to Iceland. Very, very fortunate to have missed out. No, Iceland is an incredible place, and everywhere you look, there's just a stunning vista. I mean, it's a wonderful place to shoot, but it was hard. We shot all through the night, every night for 2 weeks. It was, it was a bit.
The other thing, though, was in every one of these locations, we had local crew. Yeah. And we had the best of all of these countries. And there was that other aspect. I mean, there were probably 7 languages spoken on set. And just everybody, the spirit of everybody, they felt like they were contributing to this thing. And that was really a joy.
When you talk about this being the toughest film of your career, what was the most difficult day you had to push through where it felt like survival?
I couldn't. Hamesh asked me that when we were in Iceland, and he plays, my second in command on the ship, and he's an extraordinary actor. And we're walking across this black sand, and it's raining sideways on us, and we're freezing. And Hamesh just turns to me and goes, "Hey, Matt, this the toughest location in your career?" And I thought about it, and I said, "I don't know, Hamesh. If there was a tougher one, it was on this movie, and you were with me, so you tell me."
Fire hoses to the face would be involved.
To the face for the entire cast and crew. I didn't know that was on the bingo card.
Is that what it took?
Oh yeah. Yeah, in fact, Chris called in an airstrike on himself. Scott Fisher, his boat, was just a fire hose boat, and that's how we did storms and rain, pulled up, and every time you'd see this boat, everyone would just put their heads down, like, oh God, here's Scott. And there was so much wind on one of these days that the rain wasn't hitting us, and Chris finally grabs the walkie-talkie and starts waving his arms and goes, "Me, Scott, hit me!" And this wall of water just came and just started annihilating us, and then Chris screamed rolling, and we were off, and it's all in the movie. Yeah.
Kaylee Hartung, NBC News.
Okay, just absolutely epic interview and movie. I cannot wait to see that. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now. Stay with us, so the news continues right now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.